Coming up on today's After News, Chris Jericho and Hulk Hogan are teaming up for the Learning Tree stuff, apparently.
A new trademark teases Jon Moxley's next move.
More bad news for Keith Lee.
And the real reason why AEW dropped this storyline cold.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the After News. So just when you thought the Learning Tree couldn't get any worse, what if Hulk Hogan was involved with it? Well, that's what he claims anyway. He was in an interview with Barstool Wrestling, and he was asked if he's still actively engaged with pro wrestling today. And, well, this is what he said. He said, yeah, I'll hit Cody Rhodes up. We'll talk. He wears that weightlifting belt, stuff like that. And I talk a lot to guys like Chris Jericho. He's a good friend of mine. He said, well, I'm just doing the Hollywood Hogan 96. And I said, you're doing a good job, brother. So I talked a lot to the young guys. You know, they're still running around. So yes, Hulk Hogan is the reason for the dreadful Learning Tree gimmick, because according to him, Jericho's doing an homage to Hollywood Hogan 1996.
Well, yeah. Hulk said it, so here we are, getting our grubby aggregate fingers on it. We're allowed to report it as...
Is it true? Well, he said it, so probably not.
I've read his books, and that man never tells a lie. Yeah, he tells 100.
I love that Alan Cheapshot thread. I go back to it from time to time.
It's incredible, on Twitter. Honestly, brilliant. There's threads, there's fine work out there on this very website. There's the original The Mad Lies of Hulk Hogan by Stuart Millard, which itself should be a book that he should have published along with some of his many other fantastic works. Chris Jericho may choose to come out and confirm or deny this. Look, I'm sure they've got things in common, such as who they're both for, and various other things about their history in pro wrestling, the time they spent together in WCW. My favourite bit of this whole story is, and it's relatable in a gross way, because even though we're all in our 30s, fact. It's a bit like at this point, it says, I'm into your modern pop music, like the Beatles. That's the equivalent of calling Chris Jericho one of the young guys at this point, isn't it? All the young guys running around, your Jerichos, your Codys. Like, it's just, it's not like he's just like name-check Nick Wayne or something, is it?
He hasn't watched a second of wrestling this year, has he?
No. Yeah, I'm kind of into what this young lad Jericho's up to.
Yeah.
He's got great potential.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes, worked with his dad, you wouldn't have heard of him, Dusty Rhodes he was called. Wild. So yeah, when you're...
Stinger getting his family involved, I've seen. I once did that, you know.
So when you go to the toilet or getting your merchandise or your popcorn when Chris Jericho comes on Dynamite, now know that you're protesting 2 acts instead of 1. Yeah. So that's nice, isn't it?
Hollywood Hogan 1996, an homage by the Learning Tree.
I don't know. Look, we'll get onto an act that might...
My favourite lie of his... actually, no, the article continues. He doesn't mention this, actually, but I found out that apparently Elvis is still a big fan of this Learning Tree gimmick, as he was Hulk Hogan back in the day, of course. Just around the time he's partnered with John Belushi after WrestleMania, if I remember correctly.
I think you've definitely got your facts right, 100%.
Check out that Alan Cheapshot thread, it's great stuff.
Hulk Hogan talks enough, you could fill it all the way to the taps, brother. No, should we move on to an act that might actually bring people back to their seats rather than send them packing for them? Jon Moxley, in his current guise in AEW, is ready for Bryan Danielson at Wrestle Dream, possibly going to take his title.
Is that this weekend?
Yeah, this
Jesus
weekend.
Christ.
Take his title and his career before he brings in Shane McMahon as the greater power of all of this, but no. This is nothing to do with Shane Mac for now, at least, but Jon Moxley has registered a trademark for Switchblade Conspiracy, which is the name of his group, with one Sami Callihan, when both were pre-WWE. Obviously, Callihan had a cup of tea in WWE, but has been best known for his stuff. I suppose best known for his stuff with Impact Wrestling, but an indie deathmatch name.
Best known for his stuff with almost fighting Simon Miller.
Indeed, yeah. Nearly
36 weekend it was meant to be.
Yeah, nearly worked Miller over WrestleMania weekend before the pandemic hit. I watched him work Paul Walter Hauser in the ECW arena. Not great till the Sandman showed up, but you know, they were both doing the best, I suppose. But yes, he's never worked for AEW, but there's always been whispers that Moxley has wanted to bring him in. I think he was one of the many rumoured names for the role that was eventually given to Brody Lee.
Yes.
When obviously they were kind of teasing who was going to be the Dark Order's Exalted One, all that sort of thing. So could he be the next member of this group that Jon Moxley has since assembled in the ashes of the Blackpool Combat Club? We're going to find out this week if Wheeler Yuta wants to be a part of it. It was the gimmick attorney. I've never heard of this guy, but then I had a look at his sort of tweet, and he's kind of perfect for all of this. The gimmick attorney, Mike Dawkins. He does a bunch of like wrestling copyright related stuff. So you see just a bunch of stuff on his X profile. And Switchblade Conspiracy was the latest one. What's your thoughts on the moves Jon Moxley is currently making?
I mean, I'm interested in him for the first time in about a year, it feels like. I've kind of been a bit indifferent, if I'm perfectly honest, especially to all the Blackpool combats.
I think he was too, to be fair.
Jay White's going to have something to say about this, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, that's true. There could and probably will be an overlap there. They've never been as bothered by the overlaps as WWE used to be. It was, you couldn't have two Shanes or Steves or whatever. AEW were okay with that.
I remember that thing from Chris Van Vliet the other day where he's chatting to Sean Spears, and then before they do the Super Kick spot, they're like, "Kid, what's your name?" He's like, "My name's Sean." Shawn Michaels like, "No, it's not. That's my name."
Stan, is it?
You're Stan. That's what you are. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes next. I can't believe how fast this stuff's turning around in terms of Wrestle Dream being this weekend. Really scared Bryan Danielson's going to have to retire. I don't want that to happen just yet. I'm not ready.
No, it's going to be, it's sort of at the moment, I guess, the biggest match AEW have as well, and they're going with it while Danielson's career is hanging in the balance and Moxley's this red hot heel. It's a good time to give it a try.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm nervous.
I'm excited to see Sami Callihan in AEW as well.
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll keep you posted as and when we get more developments on that. And speaking of developments, actually, some more bad news, unfortunately, if you're a fan of Keith Lee's. Obviously, he's been away for ages. I think he last wrestled, I looked this up on Cage Match earlier, he last wrestled in December of last year, the 23rd of December. He worked Brian Cage on a Holiday Bash AEW Collision episode, winning.
Yeah.
So that was good. But a lot of people still asking what the hell's going on with him, when's he coming back, and Fightful Select just recently provided an update on that. He is still yet to be cleared for a return to action due to an undisclosed medical issue. He was planned to take on Swerve at World's End last year to finally capitalise on that split of theirs and get Rick Ross special guest reference. But in the days prior to the match, Lee was sidelined. He hasn't returned with this undisclosed medical issue. He's not been a regular at TV tapings in quite some time and hasn't factored in creatively. It just sucks for Keith Lee. I was lucky enough to work with him back in our WCPW days, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy. I think he was always someone who you could see so much potential in. We always remember, it's always shared around this time of year on social media, that amazing moment in the Survivor Series match where it looks like he might be about to beat Roman Reigns. He had all the Bearcat bollocks on the main roster. Then he went to AEW and you thought finally someone's going to push him appropriately, and then this undisclosed medical issues kind of put pay to any push that he could have received. Get well soon, Keith.
Yeah, nobody ever has bad words to say about Keith Lee.
No.
And I think hopefully this can be one of those situations where wrestling kind of has a funny way of working for people sometimes. The Swerve and Our Glory split was for the longest time kind of a stick to beat AEW with, because they never seemed to get to the match. And it seemed to go on and on and on months at a time where there was no payoff forthcoming. And then, as you say, when the latest attempt to do it for World's End last year didn't happen, it really did feel like, well, that's it. That's like a dead rubber. You're never going to get that back on track. If anything, Swerve's, predicted but nonetheless really impressive rise in 2024 has almost opened the door for a perfect return for Keith Lee if that day ever comes. That's a money match.
If you're stuck for something to Swerve to do, there.
Once he's healthy and once he's cleared and once he's good to go, you kind of just pull that one out of nowhere, out of your back pocket, and it's a huge match.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, if and when Keith Lee can make a safe and healthy return at the ring, he's got a massive match waiting for him with Swerve, and something that I think people will be super invested into.
He's a big mother flipper, I've heard.
I did hear that once on a Dynamite, I do believe. So yeah, genuinely, earnestly from all of us, get well soon, Keith Lee. We want you back.
Love to see him back in the wrestling ring.
Sticking with AEW, to wrap our stories for today, there was quite a fun and finally on the morning news, which you can check out on our YouTube channel, about an AEW wrestler. But here's another one. Chris Statlander on Collision was, I wouldn't say turned babyface, but worked more as a babyface in a match as a born-again Chris Statlander. And then was sort of attacked after the fact by Mercedes Moné and Camille specifically. Her and Camille look set to have a match as part of the build to a legitimately tantalising potential
great match.
TBS title match between Chris Statlander and Mercedes Moné. But if you missed Rampage, or indeed saw Rampage and are still wondering what's gone on here, where was Stokely Hathaway and why have those two just been pulled apart? Well, Fightful kind of came through with just the brutal truth of it. Quote, Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway's on-screen partnership was dropped because their, quote, wasn't an option to continue that story. Not really sure what that's about. Chris Statlander's last month has been strange in general. She got the big win over Willow Nightingale in one of the best AEW matches this year, I think, the
really
Chicago
good
Street Fight at All Out. And Willow subsequently has gone on to be getting a push for one belt while she gets...
She's got a number one contenders match on Wednesday,
Yeah, while Chris gets the push for the other. So they're both coming out of this feud in a better place than they were when they went in. But getting victory in that match doesn't seem to be the closing of the door with Stokely, but I guess they want to move Stokely Hathaway off into different stuff. It looks like
he's
going to be
tag stuff, isn't he?
Into tag stuff. And the pairing seemed to be the thing that got Chris Statlander kind of over a bit of a hump as a difficult role as a heel when she's such a natural babyface.
Yeah.
But, we heard this about this a lot. The Tony Khan week-to-week quote might come back to haunt him. The backstage hubbub that came out that apparently they're booking a lot more week to week in AEW. This doesn't feel like what you would have imagined 6 months down the line for Stokely and Chris, but if both of them end up in a better situation down the line as a result, maybe it wasn't a terrible call. We'll see.
Exactly. I think the good thing is that everyone's still getting used. That's the most important thing of all here. Stokely is great, and he'd be a phenomenal mouthpiece for any tag team, except the Outrunners. They don't need anyone to talk for them.
They're the youngest men alive.
But also, it wouldn't work, would it? I mean, I know Camille would have Mercedes money. You could have Stokely to counteract that, I suppose, or the other way around, Mercedes and Camille. But you can't really have, Chris seemingly being the good guy in this battle against Mercedes, whilst having Stokely Hathaway in it. So maybe that's the way they worded it, where it just couldn't work from there.
Big Stoke as a babyface might have been a bit of fun as well.
It would have been fun, that's right.
No, I get it. I do get it. It's just...
and at the end of the day, if we get Mercedes versus Chris Statlander out of it, I don't really care what else has been sacrificed.
I think that is going to be some tasty stuff.
Yeah.
Mercedes Moné knows how to get hit really, really hard, and Chris Statlander can strike with the best of them.
And the build to that, because we got a tease of it, as you mentioned on Collision, the build to that with presumably Camille versus Chris, that could be an absolute ripper. They're going to beat 7 bells out of each other.
Yeah. Look, here, man. Dynamite this week, Title Tuesday. They know the only thing they can use to compete against NXT is women's wrestling. They got 2 women's matches on there with actual stakes and cause them situations. It's like this is the week where there's only an hour head-to-head this week as opposed to the usual 2. There's been some time shift and check your uppers and downers for the new channels and all that sort of stuff. But it's not traditionally as loaded a Dynamite as it might be for this one, but nonetheless, the women's division, we keep saying it, I think it's true, 2024 has been the best year yet for women in AEW, and long may that continue for Chris Statlander.
Very excited to see what happens on Tuesday night, or should I say Wednesday night, when the ratings come out and Twitter explodes.
Both reviews from 3 very tired Dudleys having watched both shows on a Tuesday night. That's a flashback to a different time, isn't it?
Yep.
I got really ill.
But that'll be later on this week. But let us know your thoughts on the whole Chris Statlander, Mercedes money thing and everything we discussed in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And if you want to check out that morning news that Hamlet mentioned earlier, it's available right here. We'll see you soon.